What's up guys, today is a special card making challenge where we will recreate this store-bought card into a handmade card. The end result was really awesome and I was like,
oh my god! Wow!
so stay tuned.
Alright guys, so there was actually a time in my country where people used to send each other store-bought cards like Hallmark or Archie's or whatever companies they had back then. And one day my family was cleaning this old cabinet and they found a plethora of cards, and like any good artist I kept them for inspiration, and there were a lot of cards, but sadly now these days these store-bought cards are not in fashion anymore, and I think that just makes giving someone a handmade card even more special. And I wanted to share some basic templates these cards used to have. Like this is the very basic one, you have a front design and then you have a message on the inside, which is, I think it's still popular today. People do give each other these kind of cards still, and these kind of cards, they are very factory made. They have this very factory made feel in them. This just opens up a bit differently, and these of course cannot be created handmade. They cannot be created because these are like printed images. You cannot hand create them at all. Then you have some cards which are like textured. This paper, if you can see it, this is a textured paper with all kinds of embossing on it. I think this is really cool. This is one more textured one with an embossing on it, as you can see. And of course some foiling to amp it up a little bit. This is also beautiful with embossing on it. I think these are really cool cards. Then you have a different kind of, these are, I initially thought of creating one of these for this video, recreating them. These are like the trifold cards with embossing and some nice prints on them. I find this really cool. Not only is the shape of the card a bit different than any traditional card, also the trifold element. These kind of cards are actually pretty popular right now in handmade card making industry. The trifold cards are pretty popular, and I have made a few trifolds in the past. I just have not filmed them. I think these are really cool, but of course the designs are a bit too intricate for anyone to draw or make by hand unless you have a stamp set. And then of course these are very popular. These are still popular. These are the pop-up feature cards. Pop-up cards are so popular. They're incredibly easy to make, and I don't know if they're store-bought anymore or not, but these are like, they have die cut shapes and already crease lines to create the pop-up feature once you brought it. And I also thought of, initially I did think of recreating this one. It's like a glossy paper. I think this is really cool. There's one more like that. The heart and everything. I think it's really nice. Really cool. Then you have some special kind of cards. They open up differently, like this one. This is so cool. I love the design. I love the watercolor feel on this card. It's also like a trifold card, I guess. And I think it's really nice. All the trifold feel and everything. Also it has embossing. This is from Hallmark. I think it's really cool. And this, like, it has some glitter on it, and also it opens up a bit differently. These kind of cards were also pretty popular at that time. They have like elements that this is essentially a gatefold card, but it has elements that overlap, and also this glitter. This makes it quite beautiful. The pattern is also recreatable by hand, which I think is really nice. And I love the whole entire design of this card. I think it's really nice. This is an entirely printed one with a bit of foiling, but I really couldn't understand why this funny shape. I don't know, but I think it's nice. It's cool. And then also, this also is like a gatefold, which opens up like that. It has foiling. It has this beautiful design. This kind of card. If I would receive this kind of card, be it store bought or handmade, I would be really pleased. Like, this is beautiful. This kind of designs are beautiful. Then we have the kind of designs that are recreatable, and this is a card that I would be recreating today. It is beautiful. Not only is the design different, you have embossing on the back, which I can easily put a thin paper and trace this embossing, and I'll have the pattern. It has some glitter. It has a watercolor design, which I think is really nice. I'll be recreating this one today. And then of course you have this one, which is pretty basic card, but it has like a watercolor feel to it. This is some foiling. There's some glitter. I think it's really cool. Really nice. So these were some card templates, a lot of them actually, that I wanted to share with you guys. But keeping these aside, this is a card that we will be recreating today. I think it's really cool, it's really nice. So without further ado, let's dive right into the video.
The first thing to do is create the base of our card. And because the front design of this card is in watercolor, I traced the shape of this card on a watercolor paper, which is the Bristol 300 GCM cold press watercolor sheets, and then I'm cutting it out. Thankfully, I had a magenta note card lying in my stash, which I thought is perfect for this card. So I'm tracing the sheet we just cut onto this note card, and then we'll cut it out. The reason I traced the sheet instead of the actual card because I wanted the note card to be slightly bigger than the sheet we just cut. The edges line up real nice. Now to get the exact design of this card, all we need to do is keep this card beneath a thin paper like a printer paper or marker paper, and then rub all over the design with a crayon. Because it is embossed in the card, it will easily get traced and copied. After that, all I had to do was keep the watercolor sheet beneath the design that we just copied and trace it onto the paper with a pen that does not work. Then we can easily draw it with a pencil and our design will get copied successfully. Here, I'm just drawing the embossed design with a pencil so we can finally color it. Since I am no expert in watercolor by any means, what we'll be using to watercolor this are actually Crayola markers and 2 water brushes. We'll put the Crayola markers onto a plastic sheet, lift them with a water brush and watercolor. First of all, I did the heart with a very light and pale baby pink, and I did nothing fancy with the heart, just solid watercolor it. But the beauty of watercolor is that no matter what you do, how much effort you take, it's a very forgiving kind of coloring method, and it looks beautiful even if you don't know a thing about it, like yours truly. Then I did this first bird which is very close to the heart, and I colored the bird with a very bright magenta color. The only technique that I followed while coloring this entire design was the gradient technique, and that is every petal and every leaf will have the darkest amount of color at the bottom and it will get lighter as you go up. It did take a bit more time to color the entire thing because of this technique which I applied, but trust me, it was worth the effort. With floral images, it's actually very easy to get a beautiful look with just doing very simple techniques, adding some shades and some darker amount of color here and there, and the flower will look very realistic. And also because it's watercolor, it's a forgiving technique as is, so you don't have to worry much about spoiling your coloring or being too fancy with it. Now I use 2 colors for the leaves. One is a pale sage green and the other one is a bright light green. To keep some variation in the color of the leaves, I sometimes use only one color, and the other times I mix them both and did the gradient with the sage green on the bottom and the light green at the top to keep fairly variation and variety in the color of the leaves, because leaves can get quite monotonous. roses and the leaves, we also have this purple colored hibiscus flower to color. And this is where things got a bit sidetracked, because the petals of this flower were meeting in the between, and the color in the between got very muddy, and the gradient technique wasn't working that well. Also, the marker which I was using to color this, the purple marker, was not breaking down enough with the water. So yeah, in the entire design, this is the part where it really showcases my amateur watercoloring abilities. Now, roses may seem like a very intricate design to draw or color, but to my surprise, this is not the case at all. It's actually very easy to achieve the look of a good rose, because once you have colored the petals in the same manner that I described before, the middle parts get quite easy because you can just add some shadows here and there. The middle part of the rose where it like flurs open is where you want the color to be the darkest. And it did require some trial and error, adding some color here and there and doing some different things with the roses, but in the end the effect was pretty good. So if you're coloring a rose with watercolor especially, you can just go with your instinct. You don't have to be very perfect with it, and when you get to the middle part, just add some shadows here, some white here, some highlights there, and it will look all good in the end. Finally, there were some small and very simple flowers in between the entire design, for which I used a coral color, a pale purple and a pale pink, and I did nothing fancy with them, just simply colored them. Extremely simple, nothing fancy, but the watercolor effect as is makes everything look very beautiful, surreal, whimsical, whatever you may call it. And I love watercolor. It's my favorite coloring technique of all time. The original card used leaves as filler for the spaces in between the flowers, but I thought that a tint of blue in this design would do wonders. Because of the color combination, it was matching really well. So I just took a very pale sky blue and filled the entire white space of the design. The original card also had streaks of glitter all over the design, which made it look so beautiful. And the glitter was of the orange tint. So I took a Crayola glitter marker, which is also water based, so it reacts with water. I took the yellow one and the red one, mixed them and created a orangish glittery watercolor, you may call it, and I did the streaks with all the flowers. As you can see, the effect is very similar and very beautiful, really uplifts the design. The glitter streaks of the hibiscus flower were in yellow because yellow and purple really go well together, just like pink and orange really go well together. I also used a very concentrated amount of the sage green to make the middle streaks on all of the leaves. And then finally, I took some Staedtler markers and added details to this design, like the pollens of the hibiscus flower and the centers of all the small flowers that we have drawn. I also did darken the middles of all the hibiscus flowers with a dark purple color. Finally, for the sentiment, I highlighted it with a blue metallic gel pen, matching the font color and the metallic foiling feel of the sentiment in the original card. I have to say, it felt like the crafting gods were with me while recreating this store-bought card, because almost everything that was used on the original card, be it glitter or the colors of the design or the color of the sentiment, like in this case it is a metallic blue, I had everything in my stash, and I was able to pull it out very smoothly and easily. This card was one of the few cards in my entire card making career that had no problem in making, nothing went wrong, which I am very thankful and, to be honest, quite surprised of. To end the card, we just finally need to stick this watercolor design we have made on our note card. Here they are, side by side comparison. You can see the similarities is striking. And finally, I will just sign my name here. And this card making challenge is thus successfully done. Alright my folks, thank you so much for watching. As always, I really appreciate it. And you definitely need to tell me in the comments which one looks the best, the store-bought card or the handmade card. And also, I really apologize for this late upload, but I had exams and stuff going on. The next card would be a Halloween one, and Diwali one will follow soon afterwards. So stay tuned and I will catch you all in the next video.